Do you know what is 50 years? It turns out to be a human lifetime. The youth that are graduating school around the world today are 18, 19, 20 years old. They're going to be 70 in the year 2060. What is the one thing that we can do to give them the best chance to succeed in the world, to give the world the best chance to succeed? What is the one thing that will stay with them for their entire lives? Their education. It is the one thing that we have to get right. What did you want to be when you grew up? What do you still want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be an astronaut. I'm looking for 3 answers. Entrepreneur, time traveler, dancer. Young people around the world have the same hopes and dreams, whether they live in Bolivia, Rwanda, or whether they have parents that earn $200,000 a year or live on $2 a day, whether they pray to Allah or the Virgin Mary. They want to be entrepreneurs, they want to be dancers, they want to be engineers, they want to be scientists, they want to be thinkers, just like you and I. Too often, when we talk about global education, we talk about literacy. I believe education is much, much more than that. Young people have dreams, they have hopes and dreams. And today, we're hearing about amazing technological, scientific visions for the future. Robots, cyborgs. We're going to hear about artificial intelligence, the singularity. I want to talk about something much more human. I want to talk about young people and their hopes and dreams. I believe education is the single most powerful tool we have to eradicate global poverty, to transform the human landscape, to take control of our common destiny. Let me tell you about Mercy. Mercy was made fun of in school. She was a bookworm. She wanted to be a professor growing up. But when she turned 18, her parents told her, you can't go to school anymore. We can't afford for you to go to school. You have to come work. So she went to go work for her family's roadside food stand, selling tamales on the outskirts of Lima. Fast forward 5 years. Mercy gets one of the first student microloans in Peru, $350. This enables Mercy to go back to school for the first time in years. It was too late for her to become a professor, but she still had her dream to teach. And she is on her way to becoming a school teacher today. But something even more happened. Something about those extra couple years of education, something about that $350 loan transformed her from within. She decided, my daughter is never going to have to go through what I went through. And she opened a college savings account for her 4-year-old daughter. This is a woman living on $3.89 a day. She opened a college savings account for her 4-year-old daughter. I want you to think about that for a second. For the past 50 years, global education has been about literacy. Literacy has amazing effects. Birth rate goes down, maternal health goes up, HIV/AIDS goes down, crime, domestic violence goes down. And in the last 50 years, we have cut youth illiteracy from 45% to under 15%. But despite that, global poverty has not been attacked. There are 5 billion people that live on less than $10 a day. What's next? Is literacy everything? I believe education must be about opportunity. For the last 50 years, education has been about literacy. Literacy is not enough. The next 50 years must be about opportunity. I want you to imagine for a moment the difference between knowing how to read and write and, for Mercy, being a school teacher. The difference between knowing how to read and write and being a dancer. Knowing how to read and write and being an engineer, a doctor, a dancer, anything. For young people in poverty, those first few years of education after high school are transformative. They are amazing in so many ways that I can't even begin to start, but I'm going to try. We've been working with youth in developing countries for years now, helping them get the money they need to get those extra few years of education. And they are transformative. The one thing that we see is there's a couple of things that we see. You look at education in the United States, and you look at student loans. Here, in the United States, 40% of students end up not paying their loans. In developing countries, when you invest in youth, more than 99% of students repay their loans. Microfinance also has a high repayment rate. But the income change, the economic impact has never been proven. When you invest in education and in youth in developing countries, you can triple someone's income. Instead of scholarships, we found a way of making it sustainable. Education microfinance, basically. Those first few years are economically transformative, creating exponential increases in income. Every year produces huge increases, and in the first couple of years, you can triple someone's income from $3 a day to $9. They're emotionally transformative, empowering youth to become strong men and women. They are transformative for families, lifting mothers-to-be and fathers-to-be well beyond the criticality line of poverty. And they are transformative for communities and nations as young people become teachers and nurses and engineers. And they are transformative for nations as human capital is created to catapult them beyond dependence and into thriving coexistence. What do I imagine 2060 looking like? Well, I can tell you. In 50 years, there are going to be 10 billion people on the planet, the overwhelming majority of whom live in developing countries. As our youth grow up, they're coming from India, Peru, Brazil, and Africa. How do we create a world that is thriving, that is sustainable, that is healthy, that is innovative, a world that we are proud to live in? What if there were 5 billion minds that were teachers, engineers, doctors? What if instead of literacy, there were all of these people, there was human capital? Instead of everything that we see today, which has been created by a few 100 million minds, what if there were 5 billion doctors, teachers, nurses, dancers, scientists, thinkers? What would the world look like? What would the world look like if we could eradicate poverty? If instead of subsistence farming, droughts and famines, it were about creating capital, creating human capital, building nations, and thinking beyond the next day? What does the world look like if our daughters were able to get the same education and become community role models, taking their place alongside leadership positions along with our sons? You look at communities and nations and organizations that have women in leadership, the better governance, less corruption, fewer wars. What does the world look like if our youth could achieve their hopes and dreams? You look around the world today at Occupy Wall Street, you look at Arab Spring, young people have hopes and dreams. No one grows up thinking they want to fight or kill. They want to become their dreams. They want to become what they imagined being. It is when you deny those dreams, that is when people rise up. That is when youth rise up. What if there were no more child soldiers, no more wars over land, oil, and water? What would the world look like if instead of literacy, education were about opportunity? What would the world look like if for the next 50 years, education and opportunity compounded itself year after year for the next 50 years? I don't know. I can only begin to imagine. But I do know that is a world that I would be proud to live in. So I ask you, what does education mean to you? All of us in this room. Is it literacy? Or is it something more than that? Is it dreams? Is it what we want it to be when we grow up? Is it something personal? Is it aspirational? It is universal. It is not literacy. Literacy is not enough. For the next 50 years, I envision a world where education connects youth to opportunity. Literacy is not enough, and a global conversation about what education means begins today. Thank you.